A dash of mystery, a sparkle of magic, and all things cozy. Join your host, Elle Hartford, for Cozy Alchemy, a proud member of the Authors on the Air network. Hello and welcome to Cozy Alchemy, the podcast all about cozy floral books. I'm Elle, and my guest today is Meg Donohue, author of The Memory Gardener and many other books as well. We will get to that in just a minute, but first, Meg is going to start us off with a game of two truths and a lie.
Okay, here we go. Number one, I had a Portuguese water dog before the Obamas had one.
Oh, nice.
Okay. Number two, I have 3 daughters.
Okay.
Number 3, before I was an author, I was a garden designer.
Ooh. Well, that would be really appropriate for this book. It would make so much sense. These are all very fun. I would be very jealous if the Portuguese water dog one is true. I love dogs. I'm going to hope that that is true and that garden design is true, so I'm going to guess that the middle one is the lie.
Nope, I have 3 daughters, and I was not a garden designer, but maybe in a past life.
Fair enough. Well, and so on that note, The Memory Gardener, when this podcast airs, it will have just come out, I think just a couple days before.
Okay, great.
Which is very exciting.
Yes.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about it to get us started?
Sure, yes. The Memory Gardener is about a young woman named Lucy who has, she's a gardener, and she has the ability to grow flowers whose scents can awaken lost memories in people. So she's able to connect people to a certain flower whose scent will help them remember something from their past that they had not remembered and actually really need to remember in that moment in their lives, in their current time. So she does not use this at the start of the book. She does not use this gift for reasons that will become apparent as you move on in the story. But she returns home after a long absence and takes a job at a assisted living home for the elderly, and being there makes her begin to use her gift again, and the gift, without telling too much, sort of brings the community together as people remember these important moments from their past.
Nice. Yeah, I love this idea of the flower's scent invoking memories. That is so cool. Do you have a certain flower or a smell that does that for you? Like, where did you get the idea for that?
Well, not really a certain flower. I mean, I will say that I love the smell of the scent of roses, and lavender, they say, is a very calming scent, and I think that really does. I do react very strongly to the scent of lavender. There's something about it that just makes my whole body take a deep breath and relax. But I think the idea really came from working in my own tiny little garden. I live in San Francisco, so I have this very small little yard, which is actually great because it makes it manageable as a amateur gardener.
Fair.
But I spent a lot of time out there, and your mind just sort of wanders when you're gardening. It's that sort of meditative work that your mind just starts going in all sorts of directions, and I just started thinking about how scents can, I've always really been interested in how scents can trigger memories, and then just thinking about how being outside in nature can really do that as well, and the scents of flowers can really bring you back, and wanting to, I think I was just thinking about that idea, and then I sort of just had this light bulb moment of well, what if a scent can literally make you transport in time back to this forgotten moment, which I just, I like the idea of magic that is sort of something grounded in reality and then heightened beyond reality. So I loved the idea of playing with that scent connection to memory.
Yeah, that's so cool. And you make such a good point about lavender too, right? I feel like that's the classic one.
Yeah.
For me, what I had in mind reading this book and thinking about this, like for me, it's definitely honeysuckle. We had honeysuckle in the garden growing up.
That is such a beautiful scent.
Yeah.
So sweet.
But yeah, right?
I remember growing up, like picking the little stamen out of the honeysuckle and eating it, or licking it or whatever. I have strong memories of that.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I spent so much time outside playing with flowers and yeah.
Yeah. Me too.
So it just makes sense, right? And obviously that comes partly because I do have, grew up the way I did, but also what you're saying about like magic that is grounded. I love that. That's such a good way to go about it. Very cool. Now, I had a note, I made a specific note about it, just like the opening scene of your book, because it starts out, it's got this sense of wonder and the magic of the flowers that we're talking about, but like there's also grief and a little bit of worry, and then there's coming from the magic and the flowers, there's a lot of patience and reassurance right up front. Like this, it just all blends together really nicely, and the connection that Lucy has with her garden is really poignant, I think. Did that just develop as you were writing, or did you kind of have it in mind from the start?
I think a lot of that developed as I was writing. I actually wrote more drafts, like full entire drafts of this book than any other book that I've ever written. It took me a long time. Like the core idea that we've already talked about was always there from the beginning, but it just took me so long to figure out how to do that, because I've never really written, my books have had like a little bit of a sort of I don't know, whimsical sort of feel to them, but there's never really been true magic in them before, so I had to sort of learn how to write magic while I was writing this book. So I think, I don't know, I blame that in part on why it took me so long and so many drafts to get there. So I think a lot of Lucy's connections really developed over those many drafts of writing, and just thinking about someone who has this gift, probably her whole life has explored the world through her sense of scent, because it's so much stronger for her than for other people, and stronger for her than her other scents. So she talks about this at a certain point, that she sort of learns about the world through scents and about people. She's able to sort of pick up on certain things about people by their scents, and walking into certain environments, she can sort of smell maybe what's going on in that environment. So I think all of that sort of developed over time, and having that connection to her garden, being able to walk in and sort of wait for the flowers to tell her what's going on, it's sort of something that's sort of part of her magic.
Yeah, it's really special. And I think it makes a lot of sense that you say, like, you went through all these drafts and it took time, because that's how connections develop over time anyway, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, organic. You can kind of get deeper and deeper and deeper and peel away. And I usually, most of my drafts in previous books have started pretty small, and then I add layers as I write. And this book was sort of like I had to just write and write and write and write and write, and then sort of hone it down into like what I was really trying to do, which was a whole new process for me.
Yeah, which is so cool. Like, obviously on the show, I tend to focus on books that are cozy, like, so have like the kind of warmth to them, but usually also do have magic in them. So to me, it's something that I take for granted. But it's really neat how you're talking about, like, kind of working at it, like getting it right. What drove you? Like, why?
I think, like you, I really love those kind of books, and I think I've just gotten to a point in my life where I read for escape and comfort, and like I want to feel like the book gave me a hug at the end. I want to feel better when I shut it and not sort of weighed down by the world I was just in, but sort of uplifted by it. And I love those books, so I just really wanted to write a book like that was really warm and inviting, and made people feel good and felt like a gentle story that had enough of a mystery and secrets to keep you turning the pages, but it wasn't that's not necessarily the heart of the story so much as this community coming together. And but yeah, I love those kind of books so much, and I'd never written one quite like that before. One of my books was called Dog Crazy, and that also has a sort of similar gentle feel. It's like dogs instead of flowers, but it's got a similar,
which is also good.
Yeah, no magic except for the magic of dogs, which is just a sort of real magic,
real
right?
Thing. Yeah.
But yeah, I love this genre, and I intend to keep writing in it now that I maybe have figured out a little bit about how to do it. But it's much harder than it seems. You read those books and you're like, oh, what a lovely yarn was just, it was just a tale that was told, and it seems like it must be so easy, and turns out it is not.
Yeah, it's funny. A lot of the folks who come on the show will say, that the idea for their magic system, or whatever element, like a magic power, or be it a whole witchcraft or whatever, they'll say that I kind of felt my way through it, and I wrote down the rules afterward, but it mostly came to me as I went. With maybe a little bit misleading about how it, like, even though we're not necessarily putting thought into it up front all the time, it does still take a little bit of like bumbling through and drafts and
yes.
Yes.
And I bet I would guess that even those authors who say that maybe wrote down the rules and then had to go back and make sure that they are adhering to them throughout.
Right.
It's like you still have to do that.
Yes. Yes. That's my pitfall, is that I'm forever having to go back and check, like, shoot, did I
did I say that?
Is this allowed? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, and I had a lot of, because this is sort of grounded in contemporary life, and they don't live in a fantasy world, they live in California today, and the vast, 99.9% of the characters do not have a magical ability, so I think that was part of one of the things that was so hard for me to figure out, was how to have the other characters react to the magic,
Right.
That was just really, really tricky to figure out, and that was sort of one of those things where I had to go back and say, like, okay, this person is making too big of a deal of it, this person isn't reacting enough, and figuring out where that middle ground is so that the reader doesn't get caught up on that scene. They sort of are along for the ride, and
right.
Not wondering, like, why didn't this person totally freak out that they just traveled in time?
Well, that's fair, especially since, she can affect others.
Yes, exactly,
So, of course, they would notice. It's not like she's doing it on the slide, necessarily.
Right,
yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
A fine balance.
Yeah. Yes, it really is. It really is. Very hard to figure out.
Well, you mentioned earlier that a lot of your books tend to have, like, sort of that whimsical feel. And speaking of, though, we never talked about the fact that you did have a Portuguese water dog.
Oh, yes, I did. Yes, that was my, like, soul dog. He inspired my book, Dog Crazy. He was the absolute best, and I felt, like, even more proud when the Obamas got one. I was like, I had one first. But yeah, they're such a great breed. Just really super fun, super smart, just very funny. He was like the goofiest dog I've ever had. And I actually got him, I had a dog with my family growing up who passed away when I was a senior in high school, and I just, like, couldn't survive without a dog. But my parents were like, you're about to go to college. We both work full time. It doesn't make sense to get a puppy right now. And somehow I convinced them that we should get a puppy. And they did. And then I ended up, as part of this deal, bringing him to college with me. And so he came with me to college, and then I moved from college to New York, where I lived for 5 years with him, and then got engaged and moved with my fiance to Chicago for a couple of years with my dog. And then we got married, and we drove all the way across to California, and we've lived there ever since, but brought my dog, and he unfortunately passed away a couple years after we moved to California. But he was just that dog who was with me through like so many phases of my life. And I mean, yeah, just a great dog to have along for that ride.
Yeah, well, and definitely makes sense what you're saying. Like, there is a magic in that, right?
Yeah,
in that connection.
exactly. Absolutely.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, that like unspoken language communication you can have with your dog is really amazing.
Yeah. And so I wanted to circle back around to that because of the point you had made about like the whimsicalness, right? It can show up in many forms.
Yes.
But for Lucy, like, she does have nostalgic tone to her narration, at least to me reading. Aside from the magic, just like getting into her perspective, you know, to write from her point of view, how was that? Like, was that tough, or did it just come?
I think a lot of her perspective came to me pretty early on, and then a lot, like I was saying before, really developed over these excruciatingly many drafts of figuring out, you know, what her true past was, and what she really wanted, and what her relationship was with her parents, and all of that. I think, you know, some of that was there right from the beginning, and some of that really developed over time. But I knew that I wanted her to be someone who starts very solitary for reasons that the reader isn't privy to at the beginning, but you know there's something serious there that happened in her past, and so I really wanted her sort of character arc to be her breaking out of that shell and opening up in a lot of ways, and even when she was closed off, I still really wanted her to be a person who cared a lot about other people, despite her being very solitary herself. I really tried to think about the world through the eyes of someone who's really thinking a lot about helping others along the way with whatever gifts they're given. Hers happened to be gardening.
Right. There's something very sincere in that, you know? It's very sweet. Yeah. And it's so funny because it's in general, that character arc is one that we see a lot, especially in cozy stories, right? Of like finding community and finding a place. But I like how you're pointing out, like, she's helping others but still remaining herself. You know what I mean? Like, she's finding a way to do it as herself.
Right. Yes.
Very cool. You mentioned it actually earlier, and I had made a note in my questions as well, because I think, you know, somewhere in the back matter of the book, maybe in the acknowledgments or somewhere, you talk about books as transporting readers to a place of comfort, which is a beautiful phrase.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, so I just had to ask, like, are there certain books that do that for you? Like, do you have favorites?
I do, for sure. I have my, like, straight up cozy favorites, and then I have my cozy magical favorites. Cozy Magical, Sarah Addison Allen is always my go-to. I love her books. Garden Spells was a big inspiration for this book. She's so great at figuring out how to include magic in contemporary life without people like record scratch, like, what?
Yeah.
There's magic?
Right.
So she was a really good one to study along the way, but I'm always so excited when she has a new book out because I love them all. They all have that. She's just she's so creative and imaginative, and her stories are always very cozy. And yeah, what else? Ashley Poston I love her books. The Dead Romantics was one of hers.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
And those,
that's
I
very
don't know
cool.
whether, they definitely have magic for sure. I don't know whether they would be, whether you would consider them necessarily cozy. I do, because they seem, a lot of the times there's a community in them, sort of small town stuff happening a lot of the times. And I definitely always leave them feeling like I just got a hug from a book, which is my
Right.
definition of cozy.
Which is totally valid. It's
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah. I like I said, I write books with magic in them, but I come mostly from the world of cozy mystery,
Oh, okay, yeah.
which is very, very strictly defined,
Mm-hmm.
right? And as a genre, subgenre, has been around for quite a while. So it's interesting, seeing, I think especially in the past couple years, like, and I've had cozy fantasy authors on who are like, well, like there's been cozy fantasy forever. There's been cozy books, forever. It's just we didn't always seek to define them or market them necessarily the way that
Right.
we do now. So it's the point I'm trying to make is that obviously some people are very, very strict about the definition, but I think it's really blossomed over
Yeah.
the past couple of years, I think.
I agree. Yeah, it's there was an article in the New York Times, I think, in the last year that was listing all cozy books, and yeah, it really seems to have come out, of its hiding place into the mainstream for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I don't know whether I'm allowed to ask a question, but I would love to know some of your favorite cozy mystery writers or books so I can make sure to read them.
Oh gosh. Yeah, you're absolutely allowed to ask. It's only fair. I spend this whole podcast putting other people on the spot. It's fair that you should be able to do that too. Let's see.
I mean, when people ask me this, I usually, like, every title just flies right out of my head, so I would understand
Exactly, I
it.
know.
We can talk later if you can't think of them right now.
Well, and my impulse is to look at my bookshelf,
Yeah.
which you can see behind me, but it's like
Yeah.
across the room.
Right.
But specifically cozy mystery, and cozy mystery, like with elements of magic, which has been around for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Bailey Cates has a fun, like, sort of like magical cafe themed series, Magical Bakery. That's fun. I also really enjoy, and this is not magical, but a little bit fantastical in that the characters are animals. But Juno Black has the Shady Hollow Mysteries. They are very fun.
Oh, okay.
Very, very much a series that feels like a warm hug.
Oh, great. Can't wait.
Yes. Yeah. Nice. Well, speaking of books, okay, so we have you have Dog Crazy, and of course The Memory Gardener.
Yes, yes.
Are there any others that you would like to highlight?
My last book was called You, Me, and the Sea, and it was a contemporary sort of retelling, sort of just take on Wuthering Heights.
Oh, cool.
Set in Northern California again, and that book, because it's based on Wuthering Heights, which has a lot of, gothic darkness in it. There's quite a bit of gothic darkness in my version as well. So you don't always feel like you're getting a warm hug when you're reading that one, for sure. But it does have a lot of that, that sense of sort of the real magic to be found in nature and the ocean, and the comfort to be found in the sort of calming effects and peaceful effects of being near the sea. That's a big part of that book.
That's
the
cool.
sea is very important to the characters, especially the main character in that book. I loved Wuthering Heights growing up, and I really didn't like the whole, basically, second half of Wuthering Heights, so I rewrote it.
Well, that's good. I like that. I was a huge fan of Charlotte Bronte.
So
Not so much on the Wuthering Heights, but anything
Yeah.
Charlotte wrote, I would
Oh,
read.
yeah. I mean, they're all
But
amazing. All the Brontes.
yeah, but she also had books where I'm like, I would rewrite that ending. Yeah. So I appreciate that, getting to play around with your favorite
Yeah.
stories a little.
Right. Why not?
Well, and on that note, what are you working on now? If you can
I
tell
am
us.
working on, I guess you would say, a cozy magical mystery.
Cool.
Still staying in the magical plants world.
Nice.
And I'm still so early in it that I don't feel like I can say too much because I'm still figuring it out. But it's sort
Okay.
of based, a big part of it is based on, have you heard of the corpse flower, the corpse bloom?
Yeah, actually.
It's this really crazy flower that only blooms, I don't know, every few years, I think. And when it opens and blooms, it has this corpse-like scent. It's really disgusting, but it's like it's a big thing to see, and it's sort of magical that like people go to see the corpse flower bloom, and we have one here in San Francisco in the Conservatory of Flowers. And it's like an event, which I just find so fascinating and cool that like people still are interested in that, like going to watch a flower bloom and like smell it. It's like,
Yeah.
it makes me so happy that these city dwellers want to do that. So I love that idea, and I love the idea of putting a little magic into that sort of rare blooming thing that brings people together. So it's
Very cool.
yeah, it's based on that.
Neat. I could say it because I live about an hour outside of New York City, and I
Oh,
can
okay.
say it's the same. Like whenever their botanical garden, the corpse flower there blooms, it is. You're right. It's an event.
It's
It
an
is.
event, yeah, which is
Yeah.
just so like amazingly cool to me that
Yeah.
people care and want to go.
Very true. All right. Now, if you could go back and talk to yourself like when you were just starting out, either on your writing journey or more specifically on your publishing journey, what advice would you give to yourself?
Oh my gosh, what would I give to myself? That is a hard one.
Yeah.
I think maybe there comes a time, even now, in every manuscript where I feel like all hope is lost. I can't do this. What did I ever think that I could possibly do this? How am I ever going to land this plane?
Yeah.
And I think that's worse with my, I felt that most strongly with the first book, but I still feel to this day, but maybe a little bit less so. And so if I could go back in time and tell myself, back then that this is a very normal feeling. I think every writer feels this way at a certain point, that like
Yeah.
you don't know what you got yourself into and you don't know how to get yourself out, and you will figure it out. You'll get through it.
Yeah.
And that's just, part of the process, I think, where we go through these moments where we just are in love with our own writing and our own story, and then we look at it the next day and we're like, how did I love this? This is terrible. And you're just sort of on your own emotional roller coaster that you're creating. But
Yeah.
it does eventually get there.
Right. And just have faith, right?
Right, exactly. Have
Go
faith.
through.
Have faith.
Yeah.
Keep going. Keep going.
I like that. That's very good advice. I love asking authors for their advice because it's a part of, I think, just like the magic of podcasting is it's so funny. Every time somebody says what their advice would be on the show, I'm like, oh, yeah, I needed to hear that today. So very selfishly, it always works out.
That's good. That is magic.
Right? Exactly.
Yeah.
It boggles my mind sometimes. All right. Last question. What is one win that you've had in the past week? Could be anything, big or small.
I just had what I would consider a win today because I I got to listen to a bunch of potential audiobook readers some time back and sort of rank them, and I was very lucky that my publisher was agreed and was able to get the audiobook readers that I thought would be best for this. And even so, you never know how it's going to end up, right? Because you're listening to little clips of them reading some totally different book, and you have to just have some faith that they're going to be able to, you know, embody your characters as well. And I was just sent a link to be able to hear my own audiobook, and the woman, Erin Mooney, I believe is her name. I hope I got that right. Gosh. She is amazing. Like, she is Lucy, and I feel like from now on I'm going to hear her voice in my head as Lucy, and it just made me so happy to hear her, you know, reading this story and just sounding like she's Lucy. That's amazing. So that felt like a real win.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's so cool. So cool. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's very neat. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. This was fun.
Yeah. I will have like the links in your bio and links to your books and all that in the show notes so that people can find you.
Great.
Yeah. Once more, this has been lovely. Thank you so much. And listeners, I will talk to you next time. Cozy Alchemy is brought to you by Authors on the Air, and our theme music is by Cyberwave Orchestra. For everything else, blame Elle. You can find her online at ellehartford.com.